In a dusty Birmingham, Alabama parking lot, 90 degrees baking the asphalt, Sasha Freeman, a 32-year-old black architect, stepped from her SUV, blueprints in hand. Officer Carl Grayson, a hulking cop, slammed her against the hood, spitting a vile slur about her kind not belonging here. Blood dripped from her lip as she smirked, whispering, "You have no idea who I am." His fist froze mid-air. What secret could turn this brutal arrest into her battlefield? Before we dive in, let us know where you're watching from, and if you stand for justice, hit like and subscribe, because tomorrow's episode will blow your mind. Sasha Freeman's wrists burned as the cold steel of the handcuffs bit into her skin, the dusty parking lot fading into a blur as Officer Carl Grayson shoved her into the back of his patrol car. The stench of sweat and stale coffee clung to the vinyl seats, and the Birmingham sun blazed through the window, turning the cramped space into an oven. Her blueprints, still tucked under her arm during the arrest, now lay crumpled beside her, ink smudged from the scuffle. Grayson climbed into the driver's seat, his thick neck glistening with perspiration, and sneered into the rearview mirror. "Thought you were some big shot, huh? Just another thug in a suit to me." His voice dripped with venom, each word a jab meant to degrade her. Sasha straightened her spine, the sting of her split lip pulsing with every heartbeat, and met his gaze with icy calm. "I'm an architect, not a criminal. I want my lawyer." Her tone was steady, a quiet defiance that seemed to bounce off the walls of the car like a challenge. Grayson's lips curled into a mocking grin, his knuckles whitening on the steering wheel. "Lawyer? You'll be lucky if you see daylight again." The precinct loomed ahead, a squat brick building with peeling paint and bars over the windows, nestled in a part of Birmingham where the air smelled of gasoline and neglect. Grayson yanked her out, his grip bruising her arm, and marched her through the double doors into a chaos of ringing phones and barked orders. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting harsh shadows on the cracked linoleum floor. Officers glanced her way, some smirking, others indifferent as Grayson dragged her past a row of desks littered with coffee cups and paperwork. He shoved her into an interrogation room, a claustrophobic box with a single metal chair bolted to, the floor and a flickering bulb dangling from the ceiling. The door slammed shut, the sound echoing like a gunshot, and Sasha stood tall despite the ache in her shoulders. Her tailored blazer was torn at the elbow, a casualty of Grayson's rough handling, but she refused to let it shake her. She'd faced worse than this, though not in a place where the walls seemed to whisper betrayal. Grayson tossed her blueprints onto the table, pages scattering like fallen leaves, and leaned in close enough for her to smell the tobacco on his breath. "What's this garbage? Plans to rob the diner?" He chuckled, a low, guttural sound that made her stomach twist. Sasha clenched her fists, the cuffs digging deeper, and kept her voice level. "Those are designs for a community center. I was meeting a client. You've got no cause to hold me." His eyes narrowed, a flicker of irritation crossing his meaty face, and he snatched the papers up, tearing one in half with a slow, deliberate rip. "No cause? I say you're trespassing, stirring trouble where you don't belong, that's plenty." Before she could respond, the door creaked open, and a new figure stepped in, Captain Leonard Holt, a grizzled man in his 50s with a salt and pepper buzz cut and a permanent scowl etched into his leathery skin. His uniform strained against a barrel chest, and his badge gleamed under the dim light like a trophy of unchecked power. "What's the mess now, Grayson?" he growled, his voice a rumble that filled the room. Grayson straightened, tossing the torn blueprint aside. "Caught this one lurking outside the diner. Claims she's some fancy architect, but I say she's a thief. Found this on her." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a battered leather wallet, its edges frayed, and dangled it like a prize. Sasha's breath caught in her throat, her pulse spiking as she stared at the object she'd never seen before. "That's not mine," she said, her words sharp and clear, cutting through the stale air. "You planted it." Holt's eyes slid to her, cold and calculating, and a smirk tugged at the corner of his mouth. "Bold accusation for someone in cuffs. You're lucky it's just theft and not a bullet for mouthing off." He nodded to Grayson, who pocketed the wallet with a smug grin. "Booker, trespassing, theft, resisting. Let's see how smart she thinks she is in a cell." Sasha's mind raced, her architect's precision kicking in as she catalogued every detail. Grayson's lie, Holt's complicity, the wallet's sudden appearance. She'd studied law, not just buildings, during her years in the U.S. Army JAG course, and she knew this was a setup so flimsy it'd collapse under scrutiny. But scrutiny required freedom, and right now she was trapped. They hauled her to a holding cell, a dank cube with stained concrete walls and a rusted bench. The door clanged shut, locking her in with the echo of Grayson's laughter. Her blueprints were gone, confiscated as evidence, and her wrists throbbed where the cuffs had chafed them raw. She sank onto the bench, the metal cold against her thighs, and forced herself to breathe. She wasn't just Sasha Freeman, architect. She was Major Sasha Freeman, once a rising star in a classified JAG unit, trained to dismantle corruption from the inside. This wasn't over. Hours crawled by. The precincts hum a distant drone through the thick walls. A young officer, barely 20, slid a tray of grey slop through the slot, avoiding her gaze. She ignored it, her stomach too knotted to eat, and focused on her next move, one phone call. That's what the law allowed, and she'd use it to crack this cage open. When the same officer returned to collect the tray, she stood, her voice firm. "I get a call now." He hesitated, then nodded, unlocking the door and leading her to a grimy payphone bolted to the hall wall. Her fingers trembled slightly as she dialed Marcus Tate, her old JAG buddy from Fort Bragg, now a civilian lawyer with a knack for cutting through red tape. The line crackled, and his familiar baritone answered. "Sasha, what's wrong?" She kept it brief, her words clipped. "Arrested in Birmingham, framed by a cop named Grayson. Theft, trespassing, lies. I need you here." Marcus didn't miss a beat. "On my way. Army cred's still under wraps." She nodded, though he couldn't see. "For now, hurry." The call clicked to life, a lifeline in the dark, and Sasha felt a flicker of hope ignite in her chest. Marcus knew her past, her rank, her clearances, the cases she'd handled that never saw daylight. He'd get her out, and then she'd turn this ambush into a war. She hung up, the receiver clattering back into place, and turned to the officer, ready to demand her return to the cell. But before she could speak, the hall filled with heavy footsteps, and Grayson barreled toward her, his face twisted in rage. "Who'd you call, huh? Some thug lawyer to cry to?" He snatched the phone from its cradle and smashed it against the wall, plastic shattering into jagged pieces that skittered across the floor. Sasha stepped back, her heart pounding, but she held his glare. "You're scared," she said, low and steady. "Good. You should be." Grayson lunged, his meaty hand clamping around her arm, and dragged her back to the cell, shoving her inside so hard she stumbled against the bench. The door slammed again, the sound a thunderclap in the cramped space, and he leaned close to the bars, his breath hot and sour. "Keep talking, Princess. We'll see how tough you are when the judge throws the book at you." He stalked off, leaving her alone with the flickering light and the weight of his threat. Sasha rubbed her arm where his fingers had dug in, her mind spinning. The planted wallet, the torn blueprints, Holt's smirk, Grayson's fury, it all pointed to a machine she'd seen before. Corruption greased by racism, oiled by power. She'd dismantled worse in the army, but this was personal now. Her call to Marcus was a spark, but Grayson's reaction told her he'd try to snuff it out. She settled onto the bench, her split lip curling into a faint, defiant smile. Let him try. She'd faced deserts and dictators. A small-time cop and his crooked boss didn't know the storm they'd unleashed. The cell's chill seeped into her bones, but Sasha's resolve burned hotter with every passing minute. She pictured Marcus speeding down the highway, his old Jeep, eating up the miles from Atlanta, his sharp mind already slicing through the lies Grayson and Holt had spun. She'd met him during basic training at Fort Benning, two black recruits who'd bonded over late-night debates about justice and strategy. He'd seen her rise through JAG, handling classified cases that left scars she never talked about, and he'd left the army to fight in courtrooms instead of war zones. If anyone could spring her, it was him. But as the precinct lights dimmed for the night, casting long shadows across the concrete, Sasha knew this was just the opening salvo. Grayson's smashed phone wasn't panic, it was a warning. He'd escalate and Holt would back him. She closed her eyes, not to sleep, but to plan. Her elite status was still a card up her sleeve, and when she played it, Birmingham would tremble. For now she waited, a coiled spring in a cage ready to strike. The Birmingham courthouse buzzed like a hive on fire, its marble halls packed with sweat-soaked bodies pressing against wooden benches, the air thick with whispers and the tang of cheap cologne. Sasha Freeman stood in the defendant's box, her torn blazer swapped for a borrowed grey suit from Marcus Tate, who now flanked her like a shadow carved from steel. Her wrist still bore faint red rings from the cuffs, a silent testament to Grayson's brutality, but her chin stayed high, her dark eyes scanning the room. The judge's bench loomed ahead, a polished oak throne under a flickering chandelier, where Evelyn Price, a wiry woman in her 60s with silver-streaked hair and a gaze sharp enough to cut glass, presided. The clock ticked past 9 in the morning, the Alabama heat already creeping through the tall windows, turning the room into a slow broiler. Sasha's heart thudded, not from fear, but from the coiled anticipation of a fight she'd trained for in courtrooms and war zones alike. Could this be the moment the tide turned? Marcus had roared into town at dawn, his jeep screeching into the precinct lot after a 3-hour sprint from Atlanta. He'd flashed his bar card and a stack of affidavits at the desk sergeant, demanding Sasha's release with a voice that could wake the dead. Now he leaned close, his breath warm against her ear. "We've got this. No evidence on the wallet, and I've got a witness who saw Grayson near your SUV before the arrest." Sasha nodded, her split lip twitching into a ghost of a smile. She trusted Marcus implicitly, his broad shoulders and quick mind a lifeline from their army days. The bailiff called the room to order, his bellow slicing through the chatter, and Judge Price adjusted her glasses, peering at the docket. Case number 732, State versus Sasha Freeman. Charges trespassing, theft, resisting arrest. How do you plead? Sasha's voice rang out, clear and unyielding. Not guilty, Your Honor. The crowd murmured, a ripple of curiosity spreading. Who was this woman facing down the system with such steel? The prosecutor, a lanky man named Victor Rawls with a pinched face and a tie knotted too tight, stood, smoothing his notes. Your Honor, the defendant was apprehended outside a diner in a restricted area, with stolen goods in her possession. Officer Carl Grayson acted within protocol to subdue a non-compliant suspect. Marcus shot to his feet, his baritone cutting through Rawls's drone. Objection, the stolen goods claim is baseless. We have testimony proving that wallet wasn't hers and no one saw her take it. This is a sham. He slid a sworn statement across the table, penned by a diner cook who'd watched Grayson linger near Sasha's SUV minutes before the arrest. Rawls faltered, his fingers twitching over his papers, but Judge Price waved a hand. I'll see the evidence. Hand it over. She skimmed the page, her brow furrowing, then fixed Rawls with a stare that could peel paint. No fingerprints, no witnesses to the theft itself. This charge is thin as tissue paper. Dismissed. A collective gasp rolled through the room, and Sasha felt a surge of triumph bubble in her chest. Was this the crack in Grayson's armor she'd been waiting for? The trespassing and resisting charges lingered, but Marcus pressed harder, his voice rising with every word. Your Honor, my client's an architect, not a vagrant. She was meeting a client, blueprints in hand, when Officer Grayson assaulted her without cause. We request immediate release on bail. Judge Price tapped her pen, the rhythm a metronome of judgment, then nodded. Bail set at $5,000. Defendant released pending trial on remaining charges. The gavel slammed, a thunderclap of reprieve, and Sasha exhaled, her shoulders loosening for the first time in 24 hours. Marcus clapped her back, his grin wide enough to split his face. Told you, step one. She stepped out of the box, the crowd parting like a sea, some nodding in quiet respect, others glaring with suspicion. Freedom tasted sweet, but could it last in a city where Grayson's badge still shone? She and Marcus pushed through the courthouse doors into the muggy morning air, the sun now a blinding orb above the Birmingham skyline. Her SUV waited in the lot, scratched but intact, a small victory in itself. She slid into the passenger seat, Marcus taking the wheel, and for a moment, silence wrapped them in a fragile cocoon. "You're out," he said, starting the engine. "But Grayson's not done. We need to hit back hard." Sasha rubbed her wrists, the faint sting a reminder of the cell. "I know. He's got Holt in his pocket, and they'll twist this somehow." "What about my army record? Could it shut this down?" Marcus's jaw tightened, his eyes on the road. "It's a nuke, Sasha. Major Freeman, JAG Corps, classified ops. It'd blow their minds. But it's a risk. They could spin it, make you a threat instead of a hero. Your call." She stared out the window, the city blurring past, and shook her head. "Keep it quiet for now. Let's fight with what we've got." Did she just dodge a bullet, or hand Grayson a bigger gun? They pulled into a gas station to refuel, the hum of pumps and chatter a brief respite, when Sasha's phone buzzed to life in her pocket. She'd retrieved it from the precinct, cracked screen and all, and now it lit up with notifications. She swiped it open, her stomach dropping as a video loaded. Grainy footage of her in the parking lot, Grayson's arm raised but edited to show her lunging at him, a fabricated snarl on her lips. The caption screamed, "Black Thug attacks hero cop." Comments flooded in, a torrent of hate. "Send her back where she came from." Typical trash. Death threats piled up, phone numbers and addresses she didn't recognize promising. Fire and blood. Her breath hitched, her fingers trembling as she scrolled. "Marcus, look at this." He leaned over, his face darkening. "That's not what happened. He's doctored it." The video had 10,000 views in an hour, spreading like wildfire. How fast could Grayson turn her freedom into a nightmare? She slammed the phone down, her pulse racing as the reality sank in. The courthouse win was a mirage evaporating under this digital assault. Marcus grabbed his own phone, dialing a tech friend to trace the upload, but Sasha's mind spun elsewhere. Grayson had been in the precinct when she called Marcus, close enough to overhear. She replayed the moment, his rage at the smashed phone, and a chill snaked down her spine. He'd heard Marcus's voice, the mention of army creds, and now this video was his retaliation, a public execution of her name. She glanced up, catching a flicker of movement across the lot. Grayson, leaning against his patrol car, watching her through mirrored shades. His lips curled into a slow, predatory smirk, and he tapped his radio, speaking low. What was he planning next? Marcus hung up, his voice grim. "It's posted from an anonymous account, but the timing's too perfect. Grayson's behind it." Sasha nodded, her jaw clenching. "He heard us. He knows there's more to me than I'm letting on." Marcus cursed under his breath, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. "We need to counter this fast. File a defamation suit, get that video down." But Sasha's eyes stayed locked on Grayson, his silhouette a storm cloud on the horizon. "He won't stop at a video," she said, her voice low. "This is war." The gas pump clicked off, a hollow sound in the tense air, and Grayson climbed into his car, peeling out with a screech. Had Sasha underestimated the depths of his hatred? The drive to her apartment was a blur of honking horns and swirling thoughts, the video's venom replaying in her mind. She'd faced racism before, subtle cuts in boardrooms and overt sneers on army bases. But this was a beast unleashed, a city turned against her by one man's lie. Marcus pulled up to her building, a modest brick tower downtown, and killed the engine. "Stay sharp," he said. "I'll dig into Grayson's record. We'll bury him." Sasha stepped out, the weight of her phone like a brick in her pocket, and nodded. "Do it." But as he drove off, she felt the eyes of Birmingham. On her, 1,000 unseen watchers fueled by that video. What would they do when the sun went down? Before we move on, drop a comment with number 1 if you think Sasha's courthouse win should have ended this fight, or number 2 if you're raging at Grayson's dirty tricks. Hit that like button if you're rooting for Sasha to crush this racist cop, and subscribe because tomorrow's twist will leave you speechless. Now what happens when Grayson's next move turns Sasha's freedom into a living hell? Sasha Freeman pushed through the glass doors of her architectural firm, the sleek downtown Birmingham office, a stark contrast to the grime of the precinct and the courthouse's stale air. The late afternoon sun slanted through floor to ceiling, windows glinting off polished steel desks and framed blueprints lining the walls. Her heels clicked against the hardwood, a steady rhythm that faltered as she rounded the corner to her corner office. The sight hit her like a fist to the gut. Her desk, a sturdy oak piece she'd bought with her first big commission, was defaced with jagged red spray paint screaming, "Go back to Africa," across its surface. Drawers hung open, papers shredded into confetti, and her computer monitor lay cracked on the floor, its screen a spiderweb of glass. The air smelled faintly of paint fumes and malice, a violation so personal it stole her breath. She stepped forward, her borrowed grey suit suddenly feeling too tight, and ran a trembling finger over the hateful words. This wasn't random. This was Grayson's war spilling into her world. Her projects, meticulous designs for schools and community centres, were strewn across the room, some torn, others crumpled into balls. She knelt, gathering a blueprint for a youth centre she'd pitched last month, its edges singed as if someone had held a lighter to it. Her chest tightened, a mix of rage and grief bubbling up. This firm was her lifeline, built from years of late nights and army discipline, a testament to her climb from Birmingham's rough edges to a corner office with a view. Now, it was a battlefield. She stood, smoothing the ruined paper, and glanced at her phone, still buzzing with notifications from that doctored video Grayson had unleashed. Clients had called while she was in court, their voicemails a chorus of panic and withdrawal. "We can't be associated with this," one said, a hospital exec she'd wooed for months. "Your reputation's toxic," another snapped, a developer, who'd promised her a downtown tower. She'd gone from rising star to pariah in hours, all because of a lie spun from hate. The office was eerily quiet, her small team of 3 architects gone for the day, or maybe for good. She'd told them to take the afternoon after Marcus texted about her release, but the silence now felt like abandonment. She moved to the window, peering down at the street 6 stories below, where cars crawled through rush hour, oblivious to the storm brewing in her life. Her reflection stared back, split lips still swollen, eyes shadowed with exhaustion, but burning with resolve. She'd faced worse, she told herself, recalling desert nights in Iraq, poring over classified JAG files under lantern light. But this was different. This was home, and Grayson had turned it into enemy territory. She turned back to the wreckage, her jaw clenching. She'd rebuild, starting tomorrow. For now she needed rest, a plan, and Marcus's dirt on Grayson. She grabbed her bag, the cracked phone, and headed for the elevator, the hum of its descent a brief reprieve. Night fell fast, a humid blanket settling over Birmingham as Sasha pulled her scratched SUV into the driveway of her modest ranch house. On the city's west side, the street was quiet, lined with sagging porches and flickering streetlights, a working-class pocket she'd chosen for its grit and history. She stepped out, the air heavy with the scent of magnolias and gasoline, and froze. Her front windows gaped like broken teeth, shards of glass glinting on the lawn. A brick lay in the grass, its rough surface smeared with mud, a silent messenger of rage. Her pulse spiked, her army instincts kicking in as she scanned the shadows. Then she heard it, a low roar swelling from the end of the street, headlights piercing the dark. A mob surged toward her, 20, maybe 30 figures, their faces twisted with fury, illuminated by the glow of torches and phone screens. "Get out, filth!" one shouted, a wiry man in a trucker hat, his voice a snarl. "You don't belong here!" another screamed, a woman clutching a baseball bat. Sasha's breath caught, her mind racing. The video. Grayson's lie had lit this fuse, turning neighbors and strangers into a lynch mob. She bolted for the back door, fumbling with her keys as the crowd closed in, their chants a jagged chorus of hate. A brick sailed past her head, smashing into the siding, and she ducked inside, slamming the door and locking it tight. The living room was dark, her furniture untouched for now, but the windows rattled as fists pounded the frames. She grabbed her blueprints from the coffee table, the few she'd salvaged from the office, and stuffed them into a duffel bag. Glass shattered, a Molotov cocktail bursting through the front window, flames licking up the curtains with a hungry crackle. Smoke stung her eyes, her throat, and she coughed, dropping to her knees. The mob howled outside, a primal sound that chilled her blood. How had it escalated this fast? She crawled to the kitchen, the back exit her only shot, the heat of the fire searing her back. Through the haze, she glimpsed figures circling the house, silhouettes against the orange glow. Cops stood at the edge of the street, 2 patrol cars, idling their lights off. One officer leaned against his hood, arms crossed, smirking as the chaos unfolded. Grayson's doing, no doubt. She reached the back door, flung it open, and sprinted into the yard, the duffel clutched tight. The fence loomed ahead, 6 feet of weathered wood, and she vaulted it, landing hard in the alley beyond. Shouts followed, boots pounding pavement, but she didn't look back. She zigzagged through side streets, her lungs burning, until the roar faded into a distant echo. She collapsed against a dumpster, her blueprints safe, her house likely gone. Sweat plastered her hair to her forehead, and she fought to steady her breathing. She'd escaped, but at what cost? A text buzzed her phone, the cracked screen flickering. Marcus. Found a neighbor with a video of the mob. Uploading now. Stay low. Sasha's heart leapt. Evidence. She pulled up the clip, shaky footage, from a porch across the street, showing the crowd's torches, the cops in action, the firebomb igniting her home. Her name flashed in the caption, Sasha Freeman targeted by racist mob. She watched it rack up views, comments flooding in with outrage. This is insane. Where's justice? For a fleeting moment, she thought she'd turned the tables. Grayson's lie had backfired, the truth now viral. She pocketed the phone, a grim smile tugging at her lips. Let him squirm. She'd hit back harder. But the relief shattered minutes later. Another notification pinged, a news alert from a local station. Sasha Freeman incites riot, vandalizes own home, police say. Her stomach plummeted as she clicked the link. Grayson's voice filled the clip, smooth and smug, his uniform, crisp under studio lights. She staged this to smear me. Threw that bottle herself, riled up the crowd. We've got a warrant out for vandalism and incitement. The anchor nodded, her tone grave. Authorities urge the public to report any sightings of this dangerous individual. Sasha's hands shook, the duffel slipping to the ground. Grayson had flipped the script again, twisting her escape into a crime, the mob into her weapon. The video Marcus uploaded, her lifeline, was now evidence against her. She scanned the alley, shadows lengthening as sirens wailed in the distance. How deep did his reach go? She hoisted the bag, her mind racing. Her firm was trashed, her home a smoldering ruin, and now she was a fugitive in her own city. Grayson hadn't just attacked her. He'd weaponized Birmingham itself, turning every eye into a hunter's. She'd thought the courthouse win was a step forward, but it was a trap, baiting her into this nightmare. Her army training surged. To the surface, the part of her that thrived in chaos. She'd survived ambushes before, outsmarted enemies with more firepower. This was no different, just a new battlefield. She slipped deeper into the alley, her silhouette swallowed by the dark, and vowed to fight. Grayson wanted a war. He'd get one. But as the sirens grew louder, a cold truth settled in her gut. He'd struck first, and this blow was only the beginning. Sasha Freeman crouched in the alley's shadows, the Birmingham night wrapping her in a humid embrace, as distant sirens wailed like mourners at a funeral. Her duffel bag, stuffed with salvaged blueprints, pressed against her hip, a lifeline amid the wreckage of her life. Her phone glowed faintly, the cracked screen showing Marcus Tate's latest text. Meet me at the diner. Filing suit tomorrow. We've got him. She exhaled, her breath shaky but resolute, and slipped through back streets, avoiding streetlights that might betray her to Grayson's hunters. Her firm was a ruin, her home ashes, and now a vandalism warrant branded her a fugitive, all spun from that doctored video. But Marcus's words lit a spark. She'd hit back not with fists but with the law she'd mastered in JAG-Corps. Could a courtroom be her weapon against this tidal wave of hate? The diner sat on the city's edge, a neon-lit relic with peeling paint and a flickering open sign. Sasha pushed through the door, the bell jangling above, and spotted Marcus in a corner booth, his broad frame hunched over a laptop, coffee steaming beside him. The place smelled of grease and burnt toast, a handful of late-night patrons nursing, plates of eggs and fries. She slid in across from him, Her grey suit rumpled, her split lip throbbing as she spoke. "Tell me we've got a shot." Marcus looked up, his eyes bloodshot but fierce. "Better than a shot. Neighbor's video shows the mob, the cops standing by. We're suing Grayson for profiling, assault, defamation, the works." He tapped the laptop, pulling up a draft complaint, its pages dense with legal fire. "Filed at dawn. Local news is eating it up, Sasha. You're a victim now, not a villain." Her chest loosened, a rare flicker of hope igniting. Was this the turning point she'd clawed for? She leaned in, scanning the screen, her architect's eye catching every detail. The suit named Grayson cited his history of complaints, Marcus, had dug up 3 excessive force cases buried by the precinct. The video, uploaded raw by her neighbor, had hit 50,000 views, comments raging against the police. "Disgusting! Justice for Sasha!" A local station, WBRM, had picked it up, airing a segment that night with a teary-eyed anchor calling her a symbol of resilience. Sasha's name trended on social media, hashtags like "Stand with Sasha" gaining traction. She sat back, the vinyl seat creaking, and rubbed her wrists where the cuffs had left their mark. "People believe me." Marcus nodded, a grin breaking through his fatigue. "They're livid. Grayson's on the ropes." She pictured him squirming, his smug smirk fading, and felt a surge of grim satisfaction. Could public outrage, finally, crack his armor? They strategized until midnight, the diner's fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, mapping out witnesses, the neighbor, a barista who'd seen Grayson near her SUV, even the diner cook from the arraignment. Marcus would demand an injunction to halt the warrant, arguing it was retaliation for her release. Sasha sipped bitter coffee, her mind racing with possibilities. She'd faced rigged systems before, in army courts where truth bent under power, but this felt winnable. The bell jangled again and she tensed, glancing over her shoulder, but it was just a trucker stumbling in for a meal. She relaxed, her focus returning to Marcus. "If we win this, it's not just Grayson, it's Holt, the whole precinct." He nodded, his jaw tight. One domino at a time. She believed him, her jag-honed instincts aligning with his plan. Did she dare hope for a knockout blow? Dawn broke over Birmingham, a grey smear across the sky as Sasha and Marcus filed the suit at the courthouse, the same marble halls now buzzing with reporters instead of gawkers. Cameras flashed, microphones thrust forward, but Marcus waved them, off, ushering her inside. The clerk stamped their papers, and by noon, WBRM aired a follow-up. "Sasha Freeman strikes back against rogue cop." Support swelled, a petition circling online with 10,000 signatures demanding Grayson's badge. Sasha hid in Marcus's Jeep, parked in a garage, watching the coverage on her phone. Her face filled the screen, a still from the neighbors. Video, her eyes wide as the Molotov hit. She looked like a warrior, not a fugitive, and for the first time she felt the city shift beneath her feet. Was this the justice she'd fought for all along? But the tide turned fast, a riptide pulling her under. That afternoon, Captain Leonard Holt stormed into the precinct's briefing room, his leathery face flushed with fury as he watched Sasha's story dominate the news. He slammed a fist on the table, scattering coffee cups, and barked at a junior officer. "Get me something on her now." His connections ran deep, a web spun from decades on the force, and within hours he'd tapped a shady Pentagon contact, a clerk with access to old JAG files. By evening, a package landed on his desk, redacted pages stamped classified, but dripping with enough dirt to twist. Holt grinned, a predator baring teeth, and leaked it to a tabloid blog known for scandal. The headline hit like a bomb. "Sasha Freeman, Army traitor, threatens Birmingham." The story claimed her JAG service involved national security breaches, redactions fueling wild speculation, espionage, sabotage, a rogue soldier loose in Alabama. Sasha's phone erupted with alerts as she and Marcus grabbed lunch, a hole-in-the-wall joint near the courthouse. She scrolled, her stomach plummeting with every word. The leak twisted her elite status, her years advising on detainee rights and military trials, into a shadowy menace. Sources say she used classified intel to intimidate locals, the blog lied, pinning the mob on her threatening past. Her coffee went cold untouched as Marcus cursed, slamming his fork down. "This is Holt, Grayson's puppet master. Sasha nodded, her mind spinning. She'd told Marcus to keep her army record quiet, but someone had cracked it open, and now it was a weapon against her. "They've got nothing real," she said, her voice tight. "Just smoke." But the damage spread. Clients who'd wavered, now cutting ties for good, her firm's phone ringing with cancellations. How had her shield become their sword? The courthouse loomed again that afternoon, Judge Evelyn Price summoned for an emergency hearing on Sasha's suit. Reporters swarmed, shouting questions about her traitor past, but Marcus muscled through, his arm around her shoulders. Inside, the air was thick with tension, the gallery packed with onlookers, some clutching tabloids, others glaring with newfound distrust. Victor Rawls stood, his pinched face smug as he waved the leaked pages. "Your Honor, new evidence suggests Miss Freeman's a danger to this community. Her military record shows she's capable of far worse than we thought. We move to dismiss her suit and reinstate all charges." Marcus leapt up, his voice a roar. "This is a smear. Those files are redacted, unverified, and irrelevant. She's the victim here." Judge Price peered over her glasses, her expression unreadable, and tapped her gavel. "I've seen the blog. It's troubling. Suit dismissed pending investigation into these claims. Warrant reactivated." Sasha's knees buckled, Marcus catching her elbow as the room spun. "Dismissed? After the video, the support, the truth?" Price's voice cut through the haze. "Miss Freeman, you're under arrest. Officers, take her." Two burly cops stepped forward, cuffs gleaming, and Sasha's heart pounded as they snapped the steel around her wrists again. The gallery erupted, some cheering, others shouting in protest, but Grayson's face loomed in the doorway, his smirk, a blade twisting in her gut. He'd won this round, Holt's leak flipping her victory into a trap. She was hauled out, cameras flashing, the crowd parting in a mix of awe and scorn. "Traitor!" someone yelled, spitting at her feet. Marcus followed, yelling about appeals, but the precinct van swallowed her, its doors slamming shut with a finality that echoed in her bones. Had her elite status just signed her death warrant? Before we roll on, drop a comment with number 1 if you think Sasha's army pass should have stayed buried, or number 2 if you're furious Holt twisted it like this. Smash that like button if you're cheering for Sasha to break free, and subscribe because tomorrow's showdown will flip everything you expect. So what happens when Sasha's locked up and Grayson's claws dig deeper? The county jail's steel door clanged shut behind Sasha Freeman, sealing her into a sweltering tomb of concrete and despair. The air hung heavy, thick with the stench of sweat, mildew, and unwashed bodies, the Alabama heat turning the cell block into a furnace even at dusk. Her wrists ached from the fresh cuffs, the metal warmer now, biting into the same raw spots Grayson had marked days ago. She stood in a narrow hall, flanked by 2 guards with buzz cuts and sneers, their uniforms damp. Under the arms, one, a lanky man with a scar slicing his eyebrow, shoved her forward, his voice a gravelly taunt. "Move it, Harvard snitch. You're home now." The other, stockier, with a neck tattoo peeking above his collar, snatched the duffel bag she'd clung to since the mob torched her house. "What's this? More traitor trash?" He unzipped it, yanking out her blueprints, and ripped them apart, the sound of tearing paper a dagger in her chest. She lunged, instinct overriding reason, but Scarface grabbed her arm, twisting until she hissed in pain. "Try that again and you'll eat the floor." They marched her to a cell, a 6x8 box with stained walls and a single bulb flickering overhead, its weak light casting jagged shadows. A metal bunk jutted from the concrete, its mattress a thin, piss-yellow slab speckled with dark stains. The guards tossed the shredded blueprints inside, a mocking confetti of her life's work, and slammed the gate, the clang reverberating like a death knell. Sasha sank onto the bunk, the steel frame creaking under her weight, and pressed her palms to her eyes, fighting the wave of fury and helplessness crashing over her. Holt's leak had painted her as a traitor, a lie that landed her here. But this was Grayson's handiwork, his revenge for the suit, the video, her defiance. She'd faced confinement before in army training, but this was a cage built on hate, not discipline. How much deeper could they bury her? Hours bled into one another, marked only by the drip of a leaky pipe somewhere down the hall and the occasional shout from another cell. The guards returned at midnight, Scarface dangling a manila envelope. "Special delivery," he sneered, tossing it through the bars. It hit the floor with a thud, spilling photos. Her blueprints burning in the guard's hands taken moments ago, the flames licking up her designs for a youth center, a library, a future she'd dreamed of for Birmingham's kids. A note slipped. Out, scrawled in block letters, "Snitches don't last." Her stomach twisted, the message clear. Grayson wasn't just locking her up, he was erasing her, piece by piece. She scooped up the photos, her fingers trembling, and tucked them under the mattress, a vow forming in her gut. She'd survive this. She had to. The cell block stirred at dawn, a cacophony of clanging gates and barked orders as inmates shuffled. To breakfast. Sasha stayed put. Her meal, a cold tray of grits and a bruised apple, slid through the slot, but her eyes tracked the shadows beyond the bars. 3 women approached, their silhouettes hulking against the dim light, faces hard with intent. The leader, a broad-shouldered figure with a shaved head and a scar curling down her cheek, leaned close, her breath sour with cheap tobacco. "You're the army rat, huh? Holt says you're a problem." Sasha tensed, her JAG training snapping into focus, every muscle coiled. "I don't know you," she said, voice low, steady. Scar grinned, cracking her knuckles. "You will?" The other 2 fanned out, one clutching a shiv fashioned from a toothbrush, its tip glinting wickedly. Paid muscle, Sasha realized. Holt's reach snaking into the jail itself. Was this where it ended? The attack came fast, Scar lunging with a fist aimed at Sasha's jaw. She dodged, years of army hand-to-hand kicking in, and grabbed Scar's wrist, twisting until the woman yelped, dropping to one knee. The shiv wielder charged, blade slashing at her throat, but Sasha sidestepped, slamming an elbow into the woman's nose. Cartilage crunched, blood spraying, and the attacker stumbled back, clutching her face. The third swung a sock stuffed with something heavy, soap or coins, aiming for Sasha's skull. She ducked, the blow grazing her shoulder, and tackled. The woman into the bars, the clang of metal ringing out. Scar scrambled up, roaring. But Sasha spun, delivering a knee to her gut that sent her sprawling. The fight was over in seconds, the trio groaning on the floor, but the noise drew boots pounding down the hall. Grayson burst in, taser drawn, his buzz cut gleaming under the bulb, eyes wild with glee. "Riot, huh? Told you you're trash." Before she could speak, he fired, the taser's barbs sinking into her chest, electricity jolting through her like a lightning strike. Her muscles seized, her vision blurring, and she collapsed, the concrete cold against her cheek. Grayson loomed over her, his laugh a guttural rasp as he kicked her ribs, the pain exploding white-hot. "Double your sentence for that, princess. No one's saving you now." He hauled her up, half-conscious, and dragged her to a solitary cell, a pitch-black hole with no bunk, just a drain in the floor. The door shut, darkness swallowing her, and she curled against the wall, gasping through the agony. Her sentence doubled, 20 days now, for a riot she didn't start. Holt's goons had failed, but Grayson's boot finished the job. How much more could she take? Time dissolved in the black, minutes or hours impossible to gauge. The silence broken only by her ragged breathing, and the drip of that damn pipe echoing somewhere beyond. Her ribs throbbed, her chest ached from the taser, but her mind clung to one thread: Marcus. He'd fight this, appeal the dismissal, expose the leak as a sham. She needed to reach him, warn him about Holt's prison pull. A faint clink sounded, a guard's key in the lock, and the door creaked open, light stabbing her eyes. A new face, a wiry kid barely out of training, slipped a burner phone through the bars, his whisper urgent. "Tate sent this. Said you'd know what to do." She snatched it, her heart leaping, and dialed Major Lynn Carter, her old JAG mentor, a woman who'd faced down generals and won. The line crackled, Lynn's voice cutting through. "Sasha? What the hell's happening?" She spilled it, voice hoarse, framed, attacked, locked up. "Holt's got the jail, help me." Lynn's response was steel. "I've got contacts in justice. Sit tight, I'll pull strings." The call ended, the kid snatching the phone back, and Sasha slumped against the wall, a sliver of hope piercing the dark. Lynn could move mountains, had done it for Sasha in Hiroshima when a botched op nearly sank her career. If anyone could spring her, it was her. But as the door clanged shut again, a new sound filtered through, a muffled conversation down the hall. She pressed her ear to the wall, straining to hear, and caught Holt's growl, thick with menace. "She called someone? Find that phone. Bury her deeper. I want her gone." Her blood ran cold, the realization sinking in like a stone. The line was tapped, Holt's ears everywhere. He'd intercepted Lynn's promise, and now he'd twisted it into a noose. Had she just handed him the rope to hang her? She slid to the floor, the drain's damp edge pressing into her thigh, and forced her mind to work through the haze of pain. The attack, the taser, the doubled sentence, it was all Holt's machine, Grayson, his blunt instrument. Her blueprints were ash, her firm gutted, her name smeared, and now this cell was her grave unless Lynn moved fast. She'd survived worse, she told herself, picturing desert sandstorms, hostile interrogations, the weight of classified secrets she'd carried, without breaking. But this was a different beast, a system rigged to crush her under the weight of her own strength. Her elite status, once a shield, was now a target, and Holt knew it. She closed her eyes, the dark her only ally, and waited. Lynn would come through. She had to. But as footsteps echoed closer, heavy and deliberate, Sasha braced herself. Holt wasn't done, and whatever came next would be worse. Sasha Freeman jolted awake in the solitary cell, the cold concrete biting into her spine, as a faint clatter echoed beyond the steel door. Her ribs throbbed from Grayson's kick, her chest still tender from the taser's sting, but her ears pricked. At the sound, keys jangling, voices murmuring low. The Birmingham County Jail's darkness had swallowed hours, maybe days, since Holt's intercepted threat, and now something shifted. The door groaned open, flooding the black with harsh light, and Major Lynn Carter stormed in, her crisp army fatigues a stark contrast to the grime. Her grey-streaked hair was pulled tight, her eyes blazing with the fury Sasha remembered from Fort Bragg briefings. "Up, Freeman," she barked, tossing a folded jacket over the cuffs still chaining Sasha's wrists. Technicalities sprung. "You, move fast!" Sasha scrambled to her feet, her legs shaky but her mind racing. Had Lynn really cracked this cage open? 2 feds flanked Lynn, suits crisp despite the late hour, their badges glinting as they uncuffed Sasha with quick, practiced motions. She rubbed her wrists, the red welts pulsing, and followed Lynn through the jail's labyrinth, past guards who glared but stepped aside. The air grew fresher as they hit the exit, a rusted gate creaking wide to reveal a throng of protesters. Outside, 50 strong, their signs blazing in the night. "Free Sasha now. End police lies." Cheers erupted as she emerged, a battered figure in a borrowed jacket, her split lip and bruised face a testament to the hell she'd endured. Cameras flashed, phones thrust high, capturing her every step. A woman in a pink scarf shoved forward, tears streaking her face. "You're a hero, Sasha. We saw the mob video." Sasha blinked, the crowd's roar washing over her like a tide. Was this freedom, or a spotlight she couldn't escape? Lynn hustled her into an unmarked SUV, the feds piling in as the engine roared to life. "Justice Department pulled strings," Lynn said, her voice clipped as they peeled away. "Holt's leak was unverified, your arrest a sham. Charges dropped for now." Sasha sank into the seat, the leather cool against her sweat-soaked skin, and let out a ragged breath. Her blueprints were gone, her firm a ghost, but she was out. The crowd's chants faded behind them, Birmingham's skyline blurring past, a jagged silhouette against a moonless sky. She glanced at Lynn, her mentor's profile stern but proud. "Thanks, Major. I owe you." Lynn snorted, a rare crack in her armor. "You owe me a damn report when this is over." "Grayson's not done?" Sasha nodded, her gut twisting. Could she trust this victory to hold? They stopped at a cheap motel 10 miles out, a neon vacancy sign buzzing over a sagging roof. Lynn handed her a burner phone and a wad of cash. Hello, Marcus is on his way. We're building a case, but Holt's got ears everywhere." Sasha slipped into room 12, the stale air smelling of bleach and old carpet, and collapsed onto a lumpy bed, her body screaming for rest. She flicked on. The TV, the grainy screen flashing WBRM news, Sasha Freeman released amid outcry. The anchor praised her resilience. Her elite JAG status whispered in awe. A photo from her army days filling the frame, crisp in her major's uniform. Social media clips rolled, supporters chanting her name, calling her a symbol against corruption. For a moment she let herself believe it. The tide had turned, Grayson's lies crumbling under public fury. Was this the dawn she'd fought for? But the dawn shattered hours later, the motel's quiet exploding into chaos. Tires screeched outside, red and blue lights slashing through the thin curtains, and Sasha bolted upright, her heart slamming against her ribs. The door burst open, SWAT flooding in, rifles raised, their shouts a deafening roar. "Hands up, down on the ground!" She froze, then complied, knees hitting the carpet as cold steel snapped around her wrists again. Grayson strode in, his buzzcut glinting under the motel's flickering bulb, his smirk a blade of triumph. "Thought you'd slip away, huh?" He waved a baggie of white powder, dangling it like a trophy. "Found this in your SUV. Trafficking's a big leap from vandalism." Sasha's blood ran cold, her mind reeling. The SUV, impounded since her first arrest, untouched by her since. This was a plant, Grayson's claws sinking deeper. They dragged her outside, the humid night air slapping her face as cameras rolled, news vans already circling like vultures. SWAT shoved her into a van, her borrowed jacket tearing at the shoulder, and Grayson leaned close, his breath hot with tobacco. "Live TV, princess. Whole world's watching you fall." She glared, her voice a hiss through clenched teeth. "You're a liar." He chuckled, slamming the door, and the van lurched forward, sirens blaring. The feed cut to WBRM, the reporter's voice breathless. Breaking Sasha Freeman rearrested in drug bust. Protesters swarmed the scene, some screaming her innocence, others hurling bottles. But the cops pushed them back, batons swinging. Sasha's head spun, the cuffs cutting fresh marks as she pieced it together. Holt's intercepted call to Lynn. Grayson's timing. It was a setup. Her release a baited trap. How had they turned her escape into this? The precinct loomed again, its brick facade a familiar nightmare as they hauled her inside, bypassing booking for a holding pen packed with drunks and petty thieves. She stood against the bars, her ribs aching, watching Grayson strut past, radio crackling with Holt's voice. "Good work. Keep her down." Her burner phone was gone, confiscated in the raid, but a memory flashed, Lynn's warning about Holt's ears. He'd known she'd run, planned this to crush her momentum. Then a flicker of light, a bystander's stream hit her cracked phone screen, smuggled by a trembling addict in the pen. "Sasha's innocent," the caption blared, shaky footage, showing Grayson near her SUV, baggie in hand, planting it under floodlights. It went viral, 10,000 views in minutes, comments raging, "Set up! Free her!" Her pulse quickened, a lifeline in the dark. Could this footage flip the script again? But the spark snuffed out fast. Another news alert pinged. WBRM's anchor back on air, her tone grave. Update. Experts deem Sasha Freeman drug video fake. Witness recants, claims coercion. Sasha's stomach dropped, the phone slipping from her grip as the addict snatched it back. Holt's growl from the radio echoed in her mind, his reach bending reality itself. The witness, some scared kid, bought off or threatened, leaving her with nothing. Grayson reappeared, leaning against the bars, his eyes glinting with malice. "Public's fickle, huh? 1 minute you're a hero, next you're a junkie. 20 years minimum." He tapped his badge, a taunt of untouchable power, and walked off, leaving her in the pen's stench, the crowd's roar a distant memory. Her release, the cheers, Lynn's rescue, all dust in Holt's wind. Had she misjudged the beast she was fighting? She slumped against the bars, the cold metal grounding her as her mind raced. The SWAT raid, the planted drugs, the flipped witness. It was a machine, Holt's machine, with Grayson as its fist. Her JAG status, once a whisper of awe, was now a shackle, twisted to paint her as a menace. She'd escaped solitary, tasted freedom, only to be slammed back harder. The stakes now life in a cage. But she'd survived traps before, outsmarted foes with deeper pockets. She closed her eyes, picturing markers speeding toward her, Lynn rallying feds, that viral stream still, flickering in someone's feed. This wasn't over. Grayson thought he'd won, but she'd find a crack, a way to strike. As footsteps faded down the hall, she vowed it silently. They'd pay. Drop a comment with number 1 if you think Sasha's release was too good to be true, or number 2 if you're boiling at Grayson's drug frame-up. Slam that. Like button if you're rooting for Sasha to turn this trap inside out, and subscribe because tomorrow's twist will shake the ground. What happens when Sasha's fight hits a courtroom rigged to bury her? Sasha Freeman stood in the Birmingham courthouse once more, the air thick with the musk of old wood and nervous sweat, her wrists raw from cuffs that had become a second skin. The holding pen stench still clung to her borrowed jacket, torn, at the shoulder from the SWAT raid, as Marcus Tate paced beside her, his suit rumpled but his eyes alight with fire. The gallery buzzed, a sea of faces packed shoulder to shoulder, some clutching phones, others whispering her name like a prayer or a curse. Judge Evelyn Price loomed at the bench, her silver hair glinting under the chandelier's flicker, her stern gaze sweeping the room as the clock struck 10. The Alabama sun baked the tall windows, turning the courtroom into a pressure cooker, but Sasha's spine stayed rigid, her split lip a quiet badge of defiance. This was her stand, rigged or not, and she'd face it head on. Marcus had worked. Through the night, his jeep parked outside the precinct after Lynn's call confirmed her rearrest. He'd unearthed Grayson's dirt. 5 brutality complaints, 2 settled quietly with hush money, 3 swept under Holt's rug. Now he gripped a thick file, his voice low as he briefed her. "We've got his record, Sasha. Price has to see this trafficking charge is a sham. That viral stream's still out there, shaky or not." She nodded, her ribs aching from Grayson's kick, but her mind sharpened on the fight. The drug bust, the flipped witness Holt's machine. It was all crumbling under scrutiny, or so she hoped. The bailiff's shout cut through the hum. "All rise!" Price settled in, gavel poised, and the trial began. A chessboard tilted against her from the start. Victor Rawls, the prosecutor, stood first, his pinched face smug as he waved a baggie of white powder, the same one Grayson had dangled at the motel. "Your Honor, Sasha Freeman's a clear danger. Caught red-handed with narcotics, inciting riots, now trafficking. Her release was a mistake." Marcus shot up, his baritone a thunderclap. "Objection! That's a plant, and we've got proof. Officer Carl Grayson's history shows he's the criminal here." He slapped the file on the table, pages spilling open. Complaints from a black teen beaten bloody in 2020, a grandmother tasered for resisting a traffic stop, a mechanic framed with stolen tools. The gallery gasped, a ripple of shock spreading, and Price leaned forward, her glasses slipping. "Let's see it," she said, her tone clipped. Marcus handed it over, his jaw tight. "This man's a predator, Your Honor. Sasha's the victim." Price skimmed the file, her pen tapping a slow rhythm, then fixed Rawls with a stare that could shatter stone. "This officer's record is troubling. Explain the drugs." Rawls stammered, his tie askew. "Found in her vehicle, ma'am. Witness saw her with it," Marcus countered, slamming the table. "That witness recanted on live stream, coerced by Holt's precinct. We've got footage of Grayson planting it." He cued the shaky clip on a laptop, the courtroom screen flickering to life. Grayson caught in grainy light, slipping the baggie under her SUV's seat. Murmurs swelled, a juror's jaw dropping, and Sasha's pulse quickened. The truth was breaking through, raw and undeniable. Price's eyes narrowed, her voice rising. "I'm ordering an investigation into Officer Grayson. This charge teeters." "Mr. Rawls," Sasha exhaled, a sliver of hope piercing the haze, but the air shifted, a cold draft snaking through the room. Hours later, as the trial stretched into evening, news broke outside. Her family's old home in Montgomery, a clapboard relic where she'd spent summers with her grandmother, went up in flames. The TV in the courthouse lobby blared WBRM, arson. At Freeman property, dog perished. Photos flooded social media, the house a skeletal ruin, her childhood collie's leash dangling from a charred porch. The caption twisted the knife, "Justice for Grayson's victim." Sasha's knees buckled, Marcus catching her arm as she stared at the screen, her throat raw with a scream she couldn't release. Holt's growl from the jail echoed in her mind. "Bury her deeper." This was his retaliation, a personal gut punch to drown her fight. She staggered back to the stand, the gallery's eyes boring into her, some wet with pity, others glinting with scorn. Marcus whispered, "We'll use this. Holt's gone too far." She nodded, forcing steel into her spine as Price called order. "Your Honor," Marcus said, his voice trembling with controlled rage. "This arson's no coincidence. Captain Leonard Holt's behind it, punishing Sasha for exposing Grayson." He pulled up the Montgomery fire report, time-stamped an hour, Dago, and pointed to a blurry figure in a photo. Holt's barreled chest caught fleeing the scene. "This is terrorism, not justice." The room erupted, shouts clashing. And Sasha seized the moment, her voice cutting through. "I lost my home, my dog, because Holt wants me silenced. Grayson's his weapon, but I'm still here." Price banged her gavel, silencing the chaos, her face a mask of fury. "Enough! This stinks of corruption. Mistrial declared. Charges suspended pending full inquiry." Sasha's heart leapt, a ragged cheer rising from half the gallery as Marcus gripped her shoulder, his grin fierce. "We did it, Sasha. They're scrambling." She stepped from the stand, the cuffs gone, her wrists free for the first time in days, and felt the weight lift, a fleeting victory snatched from Holt's jaws. The crowd parted, some clapping, others glaring, but she held her head high, the burned house a scar she'd carry forever. Price's voice followed her out. "Investigate Holt, too. This ends now." Sasha believed it for a moment, the system bending under truth's weight. She and Marcus hit the courthouse steps. The night. Air muggy but sweet, and she breathed deep, tasting freedom again. But as they reached his jeep, a shadow moved, Grayson's hulking frame emerging from an alley, his buzz cut a dark slash against the streetlights. He didn't speak, just smirked, his hand flashing to his belt. Before Sasha could react, he lunged, a cloth soaked in something sharp and chemical, clamping over Marcus's face. Marcus thrashed, his muffled shout cut short as he slumped, Grayson dragging him into a black sedan parked curbside. Sasha charged, her army reflexes surging, but the car peeled off, tires screaming, leaving her in a cloud of exhaust. A note fluttered to the pavement, landing at her feet. "Drop it, or he's dead." Her blood froze, the paper trembling in her grip as Grayson's taillights vanished into Birmingham's sprawl. She'd won the mistrial, exposed Holt's arson, but Grayson had struck back, snatching her lifeline. The courthouse victory turned to ash in her mouth, Holt's machine roaring louder than ever. She stood alone, the street silent save for the hum of distant traffic, her borrowed jacket hanging loose as the night pressed in. Marcus, her rock, her jag brother, gone in a heartbeat, Grayson's claws sinking into her soul. The note crumpled in her fist, Holt's shadow looming behind every word. She'd thought the trial was her battlefield, but this was war, personal and savage. Her family home burned, her dog dead, now Marcus stolen, each blow a hammer forging. Her resolve. She'd trained for this not in courtrooms but in deserts, facing enemies who struck from the dark. Grayson thought he'd broken her, but he'd miscalculated. She pocketed the note, her eyes scanning the empty street, and made a silent vow. She'd find Marcus, dismantle Holt's empire, and bury Grayson in the rubble. The system had collapsed around her, but she'd rise from it, a phoenix forged, in fire. Her phone buzzed, a text from Lynn. "Feds moving on Grayson, stay sharp." Sasha clutched it, the cracked screen a lifeline, but her mind churned with darker thoughts. Holt wouldn't stop, not after the mistrial, not with Marcus in his grip. The arson was a warning, this abduction a promise. She'd exposed them and they'd hit back with everything they had. Her elite status, her jag past, it was all fuel for their hate, but also her weapon. She slipped into the shadows, her footsteps soft on the pavement, and headed for Marcus's jeep, still parked nearby. Keys glinted in the ignition, a small mercy. She'd drive, hunt, fight. Grayson had drawn blood, but she'd draw last. Sasha Freeman gripped the steering wheel of Marcus Tate's jeep, the engine's low growl a heartbeat in the Birmingham night, as she tore through deserted streets, the city's lights smearing into streaks of gold and shadow. Her borrowed jacket hung loose, torn at the shoulder, her ribs a dull ache from Grayson's kick, but her mind burned with focus, jag-trained instincts slicing through the panic. Marcus was gone, snatched by Grayson's chemical-soaked cloth outside the courthouse. That note, "Drop it or he's dead," crumpled in her pocket like a live grenade. She'd tracked the sedan's tire marks, a faint skid on wet pavement leading west, her army-honed senses mapping the trail to an abandoned warehouse on the city's industrial fringe. The building loomed ahead, a hulking skeleton of rusted steel and shattered windows, its silence a trap waiting to spring. Could she pull Marcus out of this abyss? She killed the engine a block away, the jeep sinking into the dark as she slipped out, her boots silent on cracked asphalt. The air reeked of oil and decay, a faint hum of machinery buzzing from the warehouse's depths. Her phone buzzed, Lynn's text glowing, "Feds closing in. Be careful." She pocketed it, her cracked screen a flickering lifeline, and crept closer, hugging the shadows of a crumbling wall. A side door hung ajar, its hinges groaning in the breeze, and she eased inside, the cavernous space swallowing her in gloom. Forklifts stood frozen mid-task, draped in cobwebs, and a single bulb dangled from a rafter, casting a sickly yellow pool. Then she heard it, a muffled groan, Marcus's voice, raw and strained, echoing from a back room. Her pulse spiked, her body coiling like a spring. Was he still alive, or was this Grayson's bait? She moved fast, her JAG training kicking in, every step calculated as she navigated the maze of rusting machinery, her eyes scanning for threats. A shadow flickered ahead, Grayson's hulking frame pacing in a small office, its glass walls smudged with grime. Marcus slumped in a chair, wrists bound with duct tape, his face bruised, one eye swollen shut. Grayson loomed over him, pistol pressed to Marcus's temple, his buzz cut glinting under the bulb as he snarled, "Your fancy rank won't—" "Save him, Freeman. Show yourself." Sasha froze, her breath shallow, then slipped a rusted pipe from the floor, its weight cold and solid in her grip. She'd faced armed foes before, in deserts where hesitation meant death, and she wouldn't falter now. Could she outsmart this beast with a badge? She edged closer, the pipe a silent promise, and flung it hard at a stack of crates across the room. The crash exploded through the warehouse, wood splintering, and Grayson spun, pistol swinging toward the noise. Sasha charged, a blur of motion, slamming into him from behind. Her shoulder drove into his spine, knocking him forward, and the gun skittered across the concrete, clattering under a table. He roared, twisting to grab her, but she ducked, her fist cracking against his jaw, a jolt of pain shooting through her knuckles. Marcus thrashed, tipping the chair, and Grayson lunged again, his meaty hand clamping her throat. She clawed at his grip, her vision spotting, then drove a knee into his groin. He doubled over, gasping, and she snatched the pistol, leveling it at his chest. "Stay down," she hissed, her voice a blade. Had she turned the hunter into prey? Grayson froze, his smirk fading, but the fight wasn't over. Heavy boots pounded outside, a dozen figures bursting through the warehouse doors, their silhouettes bristling with rifles and torches. Captain Leonard Holt stormed in, his barrel chest heaving, his leathery face twisted with rage. "You're done, Freeman," he bellowed, his militia fanning out, a mix of off-duty cops and local thugs, their eyes glinting with hate. Sasha yanked Marcus free, cutting the tape with a shard of glass, and shoved him toward a side exit. "Run!" she shouted, but Holt raised a Molotov cocktail, its rag wick blazing, and hurled it at the walls. Flames erupted, licking up the dry timber, a wall of heat slamming into her as the warehouse became an inferno. She fired twice, bullets pinging off metal, scattering Holt's crew, and bolted after Marcus, the fire's roar swallowing Grayson's curses. They stumbled into the night, smoke stinging their lungs, the warehouse collapsing in a symphony of crashes behind them. Marcus leaned on her, coughing blood, his voice hoarse. "You're insane, Sasha." She grinned, grim and fierce, dragging him to the jeep. "You're welcome." They peeled out, the blaze lighting the sky, a beacon of her defiance. Sirens wailed in the distance, Feds or Holt's allies, she couldn't tell, but her phone buzzed again. WBRM News, live. Sasha. Freeman rescues lawyer in daring clash. The anchor praised her heroics, the viral stream of Grayson's drug plant reigniting. Her JAG status now a rallying cry. Views hit 100,000, comments flooding. She's unstoppable. Grayson's finished. Sasha's chest swelled, the taste of victory sharp on her tongue. Was this the blow to shatter Holt's grip? But the triumph curdled fast. As they hit a back road, Marcus patched up in the passenger seat. A new alert screamed across her phone. Sasha. Freeman wanted for arson. $50,000 bounty. Holt's voice filled the clip, smooth and venomous, his uniform crisp on a precinct podium. She torched that warehouse to cover her tracks. Dangerous fugitive, armed and unstable. Reward for her capture, dead or alive. Sasha's hands tightened on the wheel, her knuckles white as the Jeep swerved. The fire, her escape twisted into Holt's noose. Grayson's survival a dagger in her back. She'd saved Marcus, humiliated them, but Holt had flipped it, painting her as the monster. Birmingham's streets would turn on her now, every shadow a bounty hunter's lair. How had her courage become their ammunition? Marcus groaned, wiping blood from his lip, and stared at the screen. Holt's a snake. That fire was his, not yours. Sasha nodded, her jaw clenched, the Jeep's headlights cutting through the dark. He's got Grayson alive spinning this. We need Lynn, the feds, something big. Her mind raced, replaying the warehouse, Holt's militia, the Molotov, Grayson's pistol in her hand. She'd fought like a soldier, not a fugitive, but Holt's lie was law now. $50,000 a siren call to every thug in Alabama. Her jag past, her elite edge, it fueled her survival, but also Holt's narrative. A rogue major, gone wild. She turned onto a dirt road, the Jeep bouncing over ruts, her eyes scanning for tails. Marcus was safe, but she was prey. The city a hunting ground. How long could she run? She pulled into a thicket, killing the lights, the night folding, around them like a shroud. Her cracked phone glowed. Lynn's text. Feds detained Grayson. Holt's next. Hide. Relief flickered, but the bounty loomed. A death sentence Holt wouldn't revoke. She'd struck a blow, rescued Marcus, but the cost was a target on her. Back bigger than ever. Her blueprints were ash, her firm dead, now her freedom a ghost. She glanced at Marcus, his breathing steady, and vowed silently. Holt would fall, Grayson with him. She'd trained for war, and this was it. No retreat. The Jeep idled, a beast ready to roar, and she waited. A hunter turned, hunted her next. Move a gamble in the dark. Drop a comment with number 1 if you think Sasha's warehouse fight was pure grit. Or number 2 if you're stunned Holt turned it against her. Slam that like button if you're cheering for Sasha to dodge this bounty. And subscribe because tomorrow's chaos will flip the board. What happens when Birmingham becomes a battlefield and Sasha's cornered by Holt's mob? Sasha Freeman hunched in the Jeep's driver's seat, the thicket's branches clawing at the windows as Birmingham's night pressed in, a humid shroud laced with the scent of pine and gasoline. Marcus Tate slumped beside her, his bruised face pale under the dashboard's faint glow, his breathing shallow but steady after the warehouse rescue. Her cracked phone buzzed, Lynn's text a lifeline. Feds have Grayson, stay hidden. The $50,000 bounty Holt had slapped on her head loomed, a death knell echoing through the city, but she'd outrun worse. She eased the Jeep onto a dirt track, tires crunching gravel, and aimed for a rundown motel 2 miles east, a crumbling speck off the highway where cash still trumped questions. Her ribs ached, her borrowed jacket stank of smoke, but her mind was a blade honed by jag years cutting through the chaos. She'd rally, strike back, and find a crack in Holt's wall. The motel's neon sign flickered. No vacancy, but... Sasha slipped the clerk a crumpled 100, her voice low. Room 5, no log. He nodded, pocketing the bill, and handed her a key, his eyes darting away. Inside, the room was a time capsule of faded floral wallpaper and a sagging bed, the air thick with mildew and stale cigarettes. Marcus collapsed onto the mattress, groaning, while Sasha rigged a radio she'd scavenged from the Jeep, its wires stripped and twisted into a makeshift transmitter. She'd hacked signals in Iraq, bypassing enemy chatter, and now she'd use it to pierce Birmingham's silence. She tuned to a pirate frequency, her breath steadying, and spoke, her voice a quiet storm. This is Sasha Freeman. Holt's a liar, Grayson's a thug. The warehouse was their trap, not mine. Look at the footage, fight with me. She cut the signal, the static snapping back, and waited, her pulse a drumbeat in the dark. Minutes later, her phone lit up, social media erupting as her broadcast hit the underground. Sasha's alive. Holt's done. Protests flared across the city, grainy live streams showing crowds outside the precinct, signs blazing, "Drop the bounty! Justice now!" WBRM picked it up, a shaky anchor reporting, "Sasha." Freeman's voice sparks uprising. Views climbed, 200,000. Her words a match to dry tinder. Marcus stirred, his swollen eye cracking open. "You're a damn legend, Sasha." She smirked, faint but fierce. The motel's thin walls vibrating with distant chants. Her JAG status, her fight, it was fuel now, not just a target. She'd turned Holt's bounty into a rallying cry, Birmingham's streets her army. The feds. Had Grayson. Lynn had promised, and maybe, just maybe, this was the edge she needed to break them. But the edge dulled fast, the night splintering into terror. An hour later, as Sasha patched Marcus's cuts with a motel towel, headlights slashed. Through the curtains, a convoy of pickups roaring into the lot. Doors slammed, boots hit pavement, and a mob surged 30 strong, their torches casting jagged flames against the walls. "Freeman's here!" a voice bellowed, thick with Alabama drawl, a man in a camo cap waving a shotgun. "Burn her out!" Molotov cocktails arced through the air, glass shattering, fire blooming across the motel's facade with a hungry roar. Sasha yanked Marcus up, his groan swallowed by the crackle, and kicked open the back window, shoving him through. Smoke clawed her throat, her eyes watering as she followed, landing hard on the gravel, the duffel long gone, her last scraps of normalcy ash. They sprinted, the mob's howls chasing them, flames devouring the motel in a blazing shroud. Dogs barked, their snarls cutting through the chaos, and Sasha glanced back, spotting Holt at the edge, his barrel chest silhouetted against the inferno, directing the pack like a general. His militia from the warehouse, reborn, their rifles, gleaming as they loosed the hounds, black shapes bounding through the smoke. She grabbed Marcus's arm, hauling him into a ditch, thorns tearing at her jacket as they crouched, the dog's growls closing in. Her heart pounded, her army training screaming, "Evade! Survive!" They bolted again, weaving through a pine grove, the fire's heat a distant pulse, until the mob's shouts faded, the dogs leashed by exhaustion. She collapsed against a trunk, Marcus panting beside her, the night a fragile shield. Holt had struck, his fury a wildfire, but she'd slipped, his grasp again. Dawn crept over the horizon, a grey smear as Sasha and Marcus limped to a gas station, its pumps rusted, its clerk asleep behind bulletproof glass. Her phone buzzed, WBRM live. Federal agents arrest Grayson in Freeman case. Lynn's promise. Delivered. His buzzcut bowed in cuffs on screen, the anchor buzzing with shock. Sources say Captain Holt's next. Protesters swelled, 500 now. Their chants a roar outside the precinct, signs demanding her freedom. Sasha's chest tightened, a flicker of triumph sparking through the exhaustion. Grayson was down, Holt cornered. Her radio plea a dagger, in their ribs. She'd outrun the mob, kept Marcus alive, and now the feds were moving. She sank onto a curb, the cold concrete grounding her, and let herself believe it. The end was near, justice clawing through the mire. But the spark died in a blast that shook the earth. A news alert screamed across her phone, WBRM cutting live. Explosion rocks Birmingham church. Footage rolled, a historic black church on the east side, its steeple a twisted ruin, flames licking the sky as screams pierced the static. The anchor's voice trembled. Dozens injured, cause unknown, but police point to Sasha Freeman. Holt appeared, his leathery face grim on camera, his uniform pristine. She's retaliating, bombing sacred ground to spite us. 50,000. Bounty stands, find her. Sasha's breath stopped, her hands shaking as the screen showed bodies pulled from rubble, a child's shoe in the ash. Marcus cursed, his voice raw. That's Holt's work, not yours. She nodded, her throat tight, the lie a noose tightening. Around her neck. The footage shifted, a grainy clip of her Jeep near the church hours ago, a fake timestamp Holt's crew had forged, her license plate clear as day. Social media flipped, her supporters fracturing. She's a terrorist. No. Way, it's a setup. The church, a sanctuary her grandmother had loved, now a weapon against her, Holt's payback for Grayson's fall. She'd never been there, holed up in the thicket, but the lie stuck. The bounty a siren call to every gun in Alabama. Her radio plea, her defiance, twisted into this horror. The mob's fire a prelude to Holt's masterstroke. She stood, her legs trembling, and crushed the phone under her boot, its cracked screen dead, her last link severed. Marcus grabbed her arm, his eyes fierce. "We fight this. Lynn's got the feds." They slipped into the gas station's shadow. The clerk still snoring, and Sasha's mind raced, her jag precision cutting through the shock. Holt had bombed the church, pinned it on her, his militia's torches now a citywide manhunt. Grayson's arrest was a win, but Holt's escalation was a guillotine, her name a curse on every lip. She'd rallied Birmingham, turned the tide only to see it crash back, a wave of blood and ash. Her firm, her home, her dog, now a church. Holt stripped everything, leaving her a ghost. But she'd trained for this, outsmarted traps in war zones, and she'd do it again. She scanned the horizon, sirens wailing closer, and pulled Marcus toward a rusted pickup abandoned by the pumps. Keys glinted in the ignition, a small grace. She'd drive, hide, strike. Holt thought he'd won, but she'd carve his empire down to bone. The truck rumbled to life, its exhaust a cough in the dawn, and Sasha peeled out, the gas station shrinking in the rear view. Marcus clutched his ribs, his voice a rasp. "Where? To?" She didn't answer. Her eyes locked on the road, the church's flames a scar in her soul. Lynn had Grayson. The feds were circling. But Holt's bomb was a checkmate, her freedom a memory. She'd rallied a city only to see it turn, Holt's lie her shackle. But she'd break it, find a way. Her elite edge her last card. The truck roared into the grey, a fugitive's flight, and she vowed silently this wasn't the end. Sasha Freeman gripped the rusted pickup's wheel. The engine sputter a ragged pulse as she and Marcus Tate barreled down a back road, Birmingham's dawn smearing the sky with streaks of ash and gold. Her ribs throbbed, her borrowed jacket reeked of motel smoke and pine sap, but her eyes burned with focus, jag-trained resolve cutting through the haze. The church bombing Holt pinned on her blazed in her mind, a wound deeper than the bounty. Her grandmother's sanctuary now rubble and lies. Marcus clutched his side, his bruised face grim as he scrolled a burner phone Lynn had slipped them at. The gas station. "Feds cleared you," he rasped, the screen glowing. "Church footage shows Holt's militia, not your jeep. Grayson's singing in custody." Sasha's breath caught, a flicker of relief piercing the dread. Could this be the crack to shatter Holt's throne? They ditched the truck in a ditch, its frame too hot with Holt's frame-up, and hiked to a safe house Lynn had texted. A clapboard shack off Highway 20, its paint peeling, its windows boarded. Inside, Major Lynn Carter waited, her fatigues crisp, a laptop open on a rickety table. Two feds flanked her, their suits rumpled but their eyes sharp, coffee steaming in chipped mugs. "You're clear," Lynn said, her voice steel. "Bombings on Holt. Grayson's confession ties him to the warehouse, the drugs, everything but the church. We've got him on tape." She played it, Grayson's growl crackling. "Holt ordered the hits, wanted her gone." Sasha sank into me. A chair, the wood creaking, her cracked phone buzzing with WBRM. Sasha Freeman exonerated, Grayson convicted. Her JAG status hit national airwaves, a hero's mantle, not a traitor's shroud. Protests swelled, 1,000 voices chanting, her name outside the precinct, signs blazing. Holt must fall. Her chest tightened, victory tasting real for the first time. Lynn shoved a tablet across the table. Live feed rolling, Grayson in cuffs, his buzz cut bowed, led to a federal van as cameras flashed. The anchor's voice boomed, "Officer Carl." Grayson convicted of assault, evidence tampering conspiracy. Captain Leonard Holt under investigation. Sasha's split lip twitched into a faint smile, Marcus clapping her shoulder, his grin fierce despite the swelling. "You did it, Sasha. He's done." She nodded, the safe house's stale air lighter, but her gut churned. Holt wasn't in cuffs, not yet, and the church's ashes haunted her. Lynn leaned in, her grey eyes piercing. Justice Department's raiding the precinct tomorrow. Holt's a ghost, but we'll flush him. Your status sealed this, Major. They're calling you a legend." Sasha exhaled, the weight lifting. Her elite passed a sword that finally struck true. Was this the end of Holt's reign? The news ran wild, her face on every screen. A photo from her JAG days, crisp uniform, medals glinting, now a symbol of resilience. Social media exploded, 300,000 views, hashtags like Sasha wins, trending nationwide. Birmingham's streets pulsed with rallies, protesters storming City Hall demanding Holt's head. Sasha watched from the shack, the boarded windows rattling with distant roars, her mind replaying every blow, the arrest, the mob, the jail, the church. Grayson's fall was sweet, but Holt's shadow lingered, a venomous thread unsevered. She'd rallied a city, turned lies to truth, and now the feds had her back. Marcus patched his cuts with a rag, his voice steady. "We've got him cornered. He's got nowhere to run." She wanted to believe it, her JAG precision mapping the win. But Holt's silence gnawed at her. Then the counterstrike hit, a digital dagger in the night. Hours later, as Sasha sipped bitter coffee, the safe house's quiet shattered by a new WBRM alert. Sasha Freeman's firm, hacked, army lies exposed. Her stomach dropped, the tablet trembling in her grip as the anchor read, "Leaked files. Claim Freeman rigged JAG cases, framed innocence. Firm bankrupt, reputation in ruins." She swiped to the blog, a torrent of forged docs spilling out. Redacted memos twisted to paint her as a corrupt major, evidence of bribes, botched trials, all fake but slick enough to sting. Her firm's servers, her life's work, gutted. Overnight, clients fleeing, her name trending for treason again. Marcus cursed, slamming the table. "Holt's still out there, this is him." Sasha's jaw clenched, her coffee spilling as she stood, the room spinning. How had he struck from the shadows? The leak spread like wildfire, her supporters fracturing, some clinging to her innocence, others turning cold. She fooled us. Traitors back. Her firm's bankruptcy hit the wire, a death knell for her career. Every blueprint, every dream erased by Holt's hack. Lynn's face darkened, her fingers flying over the laptop. He's got a tech guy, ex-NSA maybe. Feds are tracing it. Sasha paced, her boots scuffing the warped floor, her mind racing. Holt had lost Grayson, lost the church lie, but this was his riposte, a venomous claw slashing her from hiding. She'd cleared her name, only to see it smeared again, her elite. Status a double-edged blade. The safe house felt like a cage, the walls closing in. But she'd faced ambushes before, turned traps into triumphs. She'd find him, end this. She grabbed the burner, dialing Lynn's Fed contact, her voice a hiss. Track Holt's signal, he's close. Hours ticked by, the shack's silence a pressure cooker, until Lynn's laptop pinged. A hit. Bunker, 5 miles north, Old Mill site. Sasha snatched a map, her JAG precision plotting the strike, and geared up, slipping a recorder from Lynn's bag into her pocket. Marcus limped behind, insisting, "I'm with you." They drove, the pickup, rattling, and hit the mill at dusk, a crumbling hulk of brick and steel shrouded in pines. Holt's silhouette loomed inside, his barrel chest pacing a concrete bunker, a pistol glinting in his hand. Sasha crept in, Marcus covering the exit, her recorder rolling as she faced him, her voice steady. "It's over, Holt. Grayson's gone. You're next." He spun, his leathery face a mask of rage, but his laugh was ice. "You think you've won, Freeman? That hack's just the start. I've got more, enough to bury you forever." She stepped closer, the recorder humming, her eyes locked on his. "Confess. End this." He sneered, raising the pistol, his voice a growl. "I burned your house, bombed that church, hacked your life. Grayson was my dog, but I'm the master." "You're nothing." The words poured out, a venomous flood, every crime laid bare, her recorder catching it all. She braced, ready to lunge, but Holt's eyes flickered, a wild glint, and he turned the gun on himself, the barrel kissing his temple. "You'll never take me," he rasped, and pulled the trigger. The shot echoed, blood spraying the wall, his body crumpling in a heap. Sasha stumbled back, the recorder slipping from her grip as Marcus rushed in, his gasp a choke. Holt was dead, his confession hers, but her hands shook, the pistol smoking at her feet. Feds swarmed minutes later, Lynn leading, their shouts a blur as they secured the scene. "You got him," Lynn said, her voice tight, but Sasha stared at the body, the blood pooling, her fingerprints on the gun from the warehouse fight flashing in her mind. She'd won, Holt's empire shattered, his words a noose for his legacy. But the scene screamed setup. The feds bagged the recorder, Grayson's conviction sealed. But Holt's suicide was a trap, her presence a frame. She'd exposed him, only to stand in his blood, the system's collapse a hollow victory. They hauled her out, the mill's pines whispering in the dusk, her cracked phone buzzing with WBRM. Holt dead, Freeman cleared. The anchor praised. Her the recording leaked live, Holt's confession a bombshell. Birmingham reeled, protests turning to cheers, her JAG status a crown, but Sasha's gut twisted. She'd traced him, ended him, yet the gun in her hand, the blood on her boots. It was Holt's last play, a shadow she couldn't shake. Marcus gripped her arm, his voice firm. "We'll fight this too." She nodded, the feds' lights flashing, her elite edge, her shield and curse. Holt was gone, but his ghost lingered, a final snare in a war she'd barely survived. Sasha Freeman stood in the Birmingham precinct's shadow, the morning sun glinting off its brick facade as federal agents milled around her, their radios crackling with updates from Holt's bunker raid. Her borrowed jacket hung in tatters, her ribs a dull ache, but her spine stayed rigid, JAG-trained grit holding her upright. Marcus Tate limped beside her, his bruised face set in a fierce grin, the recorder's confession, Holt's damning words, still buzzing in her pocket. Hours ago she'd faced Holt's pistol, watched him blow his own brains out, and now the feds had cleared her of his death, the tape a golden key unlocking her chains. WBRM blared from a nearby van. Sasha Freeman, acquitted. Holt's suicide. Confirms corruption. The anchor's voice soared, her JAG status cemented as heroic, not treacherous. A live feed of the recording hitting millions. Crowds swarmed the streets, 1,000 strong, chanting her name like a war cry, signs blazing. Sasha's justice. Her chest swelled, a battered victory tasting sharp and real. The feds had moved fast, Lynn's contacts sealing the deal. Grayson's conviction stood, Holt's death a self-inflicted end, and the tape, leaked live, ripped the precinct's veil wide open. Sasha's fingerprints on the warehouse gun, a fleeting worry, were dismissed as combat residue, not murder, the recorder's timestamp proving she'd never fired. She stepped from the van, Marcus steadying her, and faced the throng, their cheers a tidal wave washing over her split lip and smoke-stained skin. A woman in a red scarf thrust a microphone forward, WBRM's logo gleaming. "Major Freeman, you're free, how's it feel?" Sasha's voice rasped, steady despite the exhaustion. "It's not over till the system changes. This is for everyone," Holt crushed. The crowd roared louder, fists pumping, her elite past a beacon now, not a burden. Birmingham hailed her, a civil rights icon forged in fire. Lynn approached, her fatigues crisp, a rare smile cracking her stern face. "Justice Department's launching a full probe. You're the spark, Sasha, they're naming you a hero." She handed over a burner phone, its screen flashing with news. Sasha Freeman cleared, Leeds reform call. Social media hit 500,000 views, hashtags like Sasha Rising trending globally, her army photo, medals glinting, a symbol of defiance. Marcus clapped her back, his grin widening. "You're untouchable now." She nodded, the precinct's shadow, shrinking, her firm's ashes, her burned home, the church's rubble, all scars she'd wear as badges. The feds escorted her to Marcus's jeep, the crowd parting like a sea, some weeping, others saluting. She'd won, Holt's empire dust, Grayson caged, but her gut hummed with unease. Holt's last smirk, his whispered more, lingered like a ghost. The jeep rolled downtown, Sasha behind the wheel, Marcus patched up beside her, the city's pulse a chaotic hum of horns and chants. She'd planned to crash at a friend's loft, regroup, but the streets buzzed with her name, her face on every screen. Then the trap sprang, a blast that shook the earth. A car bomb detonated under her SUV, parked since the drug frame-up, now a fireball in a precinct lot 2 blocks away. Glass rained, metal twisted, the boom rattling her teeth as she swerved, tires screeching. Marcus cursed, ducking low, the radio cutting to WBRM. "Explosion rocks Birmingham. Freeman targeted." Smoke plumed skyward, a black scar visible from the Jeep, and Sasha's hands tightened, her pulse a war drum. Holt was dead, but his claws reached from the grave. She floored it, weaving through traffic, the Jeep's engine roaring as sirens wailed behind. Lynn's voice crackled on the burner. "Get out! Holt's allies, a cabal in the force." Sasha's mind raced, Jag precision mapping the threat. The bomb wasn't random, a timed strike to silence her. Holt's more a sleeper cell of racists with badges. She hit a side street, the loft abandoned for a new plan, her eyes scanning for tails. The news rolled on, the anchor shaken. Sasha Freeman's SUV destroyed, narrow escape. Her firm's bankruptcy hit harder now, a leaked memo claiming financial ruin from her treason. Clients gone, her career a smoldering wreck. She pulled into an alley, killing the lights, her breath ragged. Marcus gripped her arm, his voice low. "They're not done. Who's left?" She slipped out, the alley's damp bricks cool against her back, and dialed Lynn, her whisper urgent. "Holt's crew, find them." Hours later, the burner buzzed. "State Senator Paul Vance, precinct puppet master." Sasha's blood chilled. Vance's name a whisper from her JAG days, a shadow in classified briefs, a racist with power Holt served. She and Marcus drove to a public square, dusk falling, and she rigged the Jeep's radio again, broadcasting live. "Senator Vance runs Holt's cabal. I've got proof, arrest him." She aired the recorder's last snippet, Holt muttering Vance's name before the shot. A bombshell dropped on Birmingham. WBRM cut in, the anchor stunned. "Freeman exposes Senator in live sting." Views hit 1 million. Feds swarming Vance's mansion, cuffs snapping as cameras rolled. Sasha stood in the square, Marcus beside her, the crowd swelling again, their cheers a thunderclap as Vance's arrest flashed on screens. Her JAG status shone. A major who toppled giants, Holt's empire in ruins, Grayson jailed, now Vance down. She'd survived the bomb, her scars a map of war, and turned Holt's trap into his downfall. The feds cleared her firm's hack, a forgery traced to Vance's aid, but the damage stuck. Bankruptcy final, her blueprints lost forever. Her family's safety hung in the balance. Threats whispered through burner texts. "You're next." She faced the crowd, her voice raw. "We won this round, keep fighting." They roared, a sea of fists, but as she turned, a red dot danced on her chest, a sniper's laser slicing the dusk. She dove, Marcus tackling her behind a statue, the dot vanishing as screams erupted. The square churned, feds rushing in, but the shooter melted into the chaos. Vance's smirk from the news echoing, "This isn't over." Sasha's heart pounded, her cracked phone buzzing with Lynn. Sniper's gone. Vance's last play. She rose, dirt streaking her jacket, the crowd's cheers faltering into gasps. Her acquittal, her hero crown, it was a mirage. Holt's cabal striking from the dark. Her firm was dead, her family hunted, now a bullet with her name. She'd exposed Vance, won the day, but the cost was a war unending, her elite edge a target, painted red. Marcus pulled her to the Jeep, his voice grim. "We'll find them." She nodded, the laser's ghost on her skin, her resolve stealing. They'd come for her, but she'd come harder. The Jeep roared off, Birmingham's skyline a jagged scar against the twilight, the crowd's chants fading into a hum. Sasha's mind churned, JAG tactics plotting the next move. Hide, hunt, strike. Holt was dead, Grayson caged, Vance arrested, but the cabal's roots ran deep, a hydra with heads uncounted. The bomb, the bankruptcy, the sniper. It was a machine she'd only dented, not destroyed. Her family's old Montgomery home. Her dog's leash in the ash, the church's child's shoe, they fueled her. A fire no bullet could quench. She'd turned Holt's trap into a broadcast. Vance's arrest a public gut punch, but the sniper's dot was a vow. They'd keep coming. She glanced at Marcus, his eyes fierce, and shifted gears, the jeep vanishing into the night. She'd won this battle, but the war raged on. The burner buzzed again, Lynn's voice crackling. Feds raiding Vance's files. You're safe for now. Sasha clutched it, the square's chaos shrinking in the rear view, her cracked lip curling faintly. Safe was a lie, her JAG status a crown of thorns, but she'd wear it, wield it. Holt's suicide, Grayson's cuffs, Vance's fall, they were victories, but the sniper's miss was a warning. The cabal's pulse still beating. She'd exposed them, rallied a city, but her firm was gone, her life a fugitive's thread. The jeep hummed, a beast in flight, and she vowed silently she'd root them out, every last one, her elite edge, her blade. The road stretched dark, Birmingham a battlefield, and Sasha Freeman drove on, a warrior unbowed. Sasha Freeman stepped into the U.S. Capitol's grand hearing room, the marble walls echoing with the shuffle of feet and the hum of anticipation. Her borrowed jacket swapped for a navy blazer Lynn had thrust at her in a D.C. hotel hours ago. Her ribs ached, her split lips scabbed over, but her stride was steady, jag-trained steel in every step as she faced a panel of lawmakers, their suits crisp, their eyes sharp under the chandelier's glare. Marcus Tate flanked her, his bruises fading, his limp slight but his gaze fierce, a laptop open with Holt's confession cued. The room buzzed, reporters lining the back, cameras rolling live on WBRM. Sasha Freeman testifies, sparks federal probe. A week had passed since Vance's arrest. The snipers dot a ghost on her chest, and now she stood in Washington, her elite status a thunderclap about to shake the nation. Birmingham's scars fueled her, a fire no cabal could douse. The chairperson, Senator Clara Evans, a wiry woman with silver curls and a voice like gravel, banged her gavel, silencing the murmurs. Major Freeman, you've alleged a conspiracy in Alabama's police force. State your case. Sasha leaned into the mic, her voice clear, cutting through the room's weight. I was framed, beaten, hunted by Officer Carl Grayson and Captain Leonard Holt, puppets of Senator Paul Vance. They burned my home, bombed a church, killed my dog, all to silence me. Here's proof. Marcus hit play, Holt's growl filling the air. I burned your house, bombed that church, hacked your life. Vance runs it. Gasps rippled, lawmakers shifting, Evans's pen freezing mid-note. Sasha laid out the war. The arrest, the mob, the jail, the bounty, every blow a brick in her testimony's wall. Her jag past gleamed, a major who'd toppled, a racist empire, and the room trembled with her truth. Evans nodded, her face stern. This triggers a federal investigation into Alabama policing. Grayson's convicted, Holt's dead, Vance's detained. We'll dig deeper. Cheers erupted. Outside, audible through thick walls, a rally swelling on the Capitol steps, signs blazing. Sasha leads. End corruption. WBRM cut live, the anchor breathless. Freeman's testimony ignites reform. Views hit 10 million, her army photo, medals shining, plastered everywhere, her name a global chant. Sasha exhaled, the panel's nods, a lifeline, her firm's ashes, her family's threats, the church's rubble, all ammunition now, not chains. Marcus squeezed her shoulder, his grin a quiet triumph. You've changed everything, Sasha. She believed it, her elite edge a sword that carved justice from chaos, Birmingham's echo reaching D.C.'s core. The hearing stretched into dusk, lawmakers grilling her on details. The doctored video, the warehouse fire, the church blast. She answered with precision, her jag years a shield, every fact a bullet. Evans pledged a task force federal oversight. Vance's files seized, revealing a network of racist cops nationwide. Holt just one head of the Hydra. Sasha's testimony was the spark, her status a battering ram, and as the gavel fell, the room stood, a rare ovation for a woman who'd walked through fire. She stepped out, Marcus beside her, the Capitol's steps a stage under a crimson sky, the crowd a sea of fists and tears, chanting her name like a hymn. WBRM swarmed, mics thrusting, but she waved them off, her cracked phone buzzing with Lynn. Probes live, you're a legend. Her chest swelled, a battered hero crowned, but Holt's ghost, Vance's smirk, whispered unease. She descended. The steps. The crowd parting, her navy blazer a stark silhouette against the dusk. When a crack split the air, a sniper's shot slicing through the noise. Pain seared her shoulder, blood blooming red as she stumbled, the crowd screaming, Marcus lunging to catch her. She hit the marble, her vision blurring, the warm pool spreading beneath her, the capital's grandeur tilting wild. Feds swarmed, guns drawn, the rally dissolving into chaos as shouts rang, "She's down! Get the shooter!" Her phone slipped from her grip, WBRM live. Sasha Freeman shot. Views spiked. 20 million. Her fall a global gasp, the sniper's dot from Birmingham fulfilled. Vance's vow, this isn't over. A bullet in her flesh. Marcus knelt, his hands pressing the wound, his voice a roar. "Stay with me." Sasha. But her eyes fluttered, the world fading, her jag steel buckling under blood. Then the twist unfurled, a heartbeat later as the crowd's wails peaked. A second Sasha emerged, unscathed, stepping from a Fed van at the steps base, her navy blazer pristine, her stride unbroken. The fallen figure was a decoy, a Fed in her likeness. Lynn's trap sprung hours ago when the sniper's chatter hit their radar. Sasha's real voice cut through the chaos, a megaphone in hand. "I'm alive! Vance's cabal ends here." The crowd froze, then erupted, a tidal wave of relief and rage, cameras swinging to her, WBRM scrambling. Freeman lives, sting stuns nation. The decoy rose, blood packets bursting, a staged fall to flush the shooter, now cuffed atop a nearby roof, his rifle seized. Sasha's shoulder was clean, her jag cunning, Lynn's plan, a masterstroke. Holt's ghost exercised in a blaze of misdirection. She faced the throng, her real face scarred but fierce, the decoy stunt a thunderclap that shook the cabal's core. Feds hauled the sniper down, his snarls drowned by cheers, Vance's last pawn snared. The broadcast hit 30 million, her words live. "We've exposed them, but the fight's not done. Hunt justice always." She tossed the megaphone, the crowd surging, her elite status a wildfire igniting reform. Evans vowed deeper probes, Vance's network cracking, Alabama's police under siege. Sasha slipped into the van, Marcus beside. Her the feds peeling out as dusk deepened. Her cracked phone buzzing with texts, "You're unstoppable. Nation's with you." Her firm was gone, her family hunted, but she'd turned Holt's war into a revolution, her jag edge a blade. That cut both ways. The van rolled through DC's sprawl, Sasha silent, her mind churning. The sniper's shot, the decoy's fall, it was theater. But the stakes were real, Vance's cabal a hydra with heads uncounted. She'd testified, sparked a probe, but vanished now, a ghost in the machine. Marcus glanced at her, his voice low. "Where to?" She didn't answer, pulling a note from her pocket, scribbled in the safe house. "Justice isn't won, it's hunted." She handed it to him, her eyes on the road, the city fading behind. "Drop me at the edge. I'm gone." He nodded, understanding, the jeep stopping at a quiet corner, her silhouette slipping into the night, no trace left but the note. WBRM speculated, "Freeman vanishes, legacy burns." Her fate a mystery, her fight a flame. She'd left Birmingham. A battlefield, DC a reckoning, and the cabal a warning. She'd hunt them still. The feds searched, Lynn silent, Marcus tight-lipped, but Sasha was air, a jag phantom with no chains. Her firm's ashes, her burned home, the church's child's. Shoo, they fueled her, a vow etched in blood and fire. Vance's arrest, Holt's death, Grayson's cage. They were victories, but the sniper's shot was a thread, a network unravaged. She'd exposed them, rallied a nation, her elite status a crown she'd shed to strike from the dark. The note. Hit social media, a cryptic spark. She's out there. Views soared 40 million, her legacy a wildfire, reform's roots digging deep. Alabama trembled, DC moved, and Sasha Freeman, major warrior ghost, hunted on, her jag edge a whisper in the shadows, justice her prey. The van's taillights vanished, Marcus driving alone, the city's hum a distant pulse as Sasha slipped. Into oblivion, her navy blazer traded for a hoodie scavenged from a dumpster. Her cracked phone lay smashed in a gutter, her burner dead, her tracks erased. She'd won, turned Holt's trap into a sting, Vance's cabal into a headline, but the war stretched beyond, a Hydra's heads regrowing. Her family hid, her firm dust but her will burned, a jag oath unbroken, protect, fight, prevail. Birmingham's chants, DC's cheers, they'd carry her torch, but she'd strike unseen, a hunter in a world she'd cracked wide. The night swallowed her. Her fate a riddle, her legacy a roar, and Sasha Freeman vowed silently, this was just the beginning. Sasha Freeman's journey in Black woman faces court battle against racist cop, but she shocks everyone with her US elite status, offers profound lessons in resilience, justice, and the power of truth against systemic racism. First, her story teaches that courage isn't the absence of fear, but the will to fight through it. Facing brutal arrests, mobs, and a church bombing, Sasha never bowed, her jag training a backbone against relentless hate. Her defiance shows that standing tall, even when the world collapses, can ignite change. Second, it reveals the depth of corruption racism breeds, from Grayson's fists to Holt's bombs to Vance's cabal. Sasha's battle exposes how power shields prejudice, a reminder to question authority when it silences the voiceless. Third, her elite status proves that credentials can be both shield and target. Used wisely, they dismantle lies, but wielded poorly, they invite sharper knives. Her choice to leverage it strategically, not flaunt it, underscores the value of timing in resistance. Fourth, community matters. Sasha's radio pleas rallied Birmingham, showing collective outrage can shift tides no individual can alone. Finally, her vanishing teaches that justice isn't a finish line but a hunt, a ceaseless pursuit against a hydra that regrows. She won battles, Grayson jailed, Holt dead, Vance exposed, but the war persists, a call to stay vigilant. So, what's your takeaway? Drop a comment. Number 1 if Sasha's grit inspires you to stand up, or number 2 if you're fired up to fight systemic rot. Hit like if her story fuels your resolve, subscribe for more tales of truth, and share to spark this fire wider. Thanks for joining Sasha's fight. Here's to chasing justice, unyielding and fierce in every corner of your world.